Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Biology 5, Human Biology. Today we're going to start on a new module on the organization and regulation of body systems and the types of tissues. Learning outcomes are understand where tissues relate in the biological levels of organization, describe the four major classes of tissues, and provide general functions for each. Tissues are composed of specialized cells of the same type that perform a common function in the body. The tissues of the human body can be categorized into four major types: connective, muscular, nervous, and epithelial. Connective tissue binds and supports the body structures. Muscular tissue moves the body and its parts. Nervous tissue receives sensory information and conducts nerve impulses, and its main function is more for communication. Epithelial tissue covers body surfaces and lines our body cavities. The next submodule is going to be connective tissue and how it connects and supports the body. Learning outcomes are describe the primary types of connective tissue and provide a function for each, compare the structure and function of bone and cartilage, and differentiate between blood and lymph. Connective tissue binds body parts together, provides support protection, fills in the spaces, stores fat, and forms our blood cells. Some examples of connective tissue include adipose, which is fat, cartilage, bone, and blood. Although quite diverse in structure and function, connective tissues all contain specialized cells. It also includes ground substances and protein fibers. The ground substance is a non-cellular material that separates the cells and varies in consistency from a solid bone structure to more of a semi-fluid cartilage to even fluid-like blood systems. There are three types of fibers: the collagen, reticular, and elastic. The white collagen fibers contain collagen that is responsible for flexibility and strength. The reticular fibers are thin collagen fibers that are highly branched and form these delicate supporting networks. And the yellow elastic fibers contain elastin that provide most of the flexibility. Here's a picture showing you the collage of different kinds of connective tissue. Over here's a breakdown of fibrous connective tissue on the far left. It can be broken down into loose and dense. And then supportive connective tissue can be broken down into cartilage and bone. And then the fluid connective tissue is divided into blood and lymphatic fluid. Fibrous connective tissue. Fibrous connective tissue is either loose or dense and has cells called fibroblasts. Fibroblasts are separated by jelly-like ground substances that contain collagen and elastic fibers. The matrix is an unstructured semi-fluid substance that fills the space between connective tissue and inside the organelles. The loose fibrous connective tissue, also known as areolar, supports epithelial and many internal organs. Adipose tissue, which is fat, is an example of this kind of type. Dense fibrous connective tissue contains collagen fibers that are packed together and make up of tendons and ligaments. They are a lot stronger and they stabilize your joints. Adipose tissue stores fat and has very little extracellular matrix. Adipocytes are cells filled with liquid fat. The function is to store energy, insulate, and cushion. They're found primarily under skin and around some organs. And the dense fibrous connective tissue contains densely packed collagen fibers. Here are some pictures of the different kinds of tissue. On the upper left, you can see the elastic fiber and the collagen fiber. On the upper right, you can see the dense fibrous tissue. In the middle, you see the adipose tissue, and on the bottom, you see bone cells, compact bone. Supportive connective tissue are cartilage and bone, and they support the structure, shape, protection, and leverage for movement. Cartilage is a lot more flexible than bone. The cells in the cartilage are called chondrocytes, which are cells that lie in small spaces called lacuna. The matrix around these areas are very solid but flexible, and they lack direct blood supply, so healing can be very slow. There are three types of cartilage. Hyaline cartilage is the most common type of cartilage and is found with mostly collagen fibers. Hyaline cartilage is found in the nose, at the ends of the long bone, at the ribs, and it forms the rings and walls of the respiratory passage. Elastic fibers are composed of elastic fibers, which allow more flexibility and are found inside the outer ear. Fibrocartilage is the one that's composed of most of the strongest collagen fibers and is found generally to be able to withstand tension and pressure, such as between the discs inside the vertebrae and cushions your knee joint. Bone is the most rigid connective tissue that contains a hard matrix of inorganic salts, particularly calcium salts. Inorganic salts are deposited around the protein fibers, giving the bone the solid rigidity. In turn, the protein fibers provide elasticity and strength. There are two types, compact bone and spongy bone. The compact bone makes up the shaft of the long bone, and it consists of a cylindrical structure called osteons. Rings of hard matrix surround the central canal of the osteon, and bone cells are located in the lacuna between the rings of the matrix. Spongy bone, on the other side, is made up of bars and bony plates that is much lighter than compact bone. It's mostly designed for strength and support. Fluid connective tissue. Blood is a fluid connective tissue that transports nutrients and oxygen to the interstitial fluid that surrounds the body's cells and removes CO2 and other wastes. It helps distribute the heat and plays a role in fluid, ion, pH balance, and in turn your body systems help keep blood composition and chemistry within a normal range. Blood consists of formed elements and plasma, which is found in the blood vessels. The formed elements of the blood are your red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. Red blood cells are also known as erythrocytes, white blood cells are called leukocytes, and platelets are called thrombocytes. The main function of red blood cells is to compose of hemoglobin, which can then contain the ability to transport and carry oxygen. White blood cells are the protecting kind of cells in the body to fight against infection, and they have phagocytic abilities. And platelets have the ability to join in clotting processes. Lymph is a clear fluid derived from the fluid surrounding the tissue that contains white blood cells. Lymph is a fluid connective tissue that circulates throughout the whole body's lymphatic system, plays a big role in the immune system, and also fat transport. Here's a collage showing you different kinds of the form elements inside the blood. Muscular tissue. Learning outcomes are distinguished among the three types of muscle with regard to the location and function in the body. Muscular tissue is specialized to contract. It is composed of cells and muscle fibers that contain actin and myosin filaments. There are three types of muscle: skeletal, smooth, and cardiac. Skeletal muscle is also known as voluntary muscle, which contains stripes or striations. Here's a picture showing you the skeletal muscle up close. You can see the banding pattern. You can see there are multiple nucleuses in this picture. Smooth muscle is involuntary muscle that lacks striation and is composed of spindle-shaped cells found in internal organs. These are also known as visceral muscle. They're involuntarily controlled. Over here is a picture showing you can see the spindle-shaped cells, each with a single nucleus. There really isn't a striation, and the main function isn't to directly contract, but rather to stretch. Cardiac muscle is found only in the walls of the heart. It is striated, involuntary, contains a single nucleus, and are connected by these structures called intergalactic discs. Over here is a picture showing you the cardiac muscle. The branching of the striated cells, and you can see the ability that is glued relatively close together. The next submodule is nervous tissue. Learning outcomes are distinguish between neurons and neuroglia. Describe the structure of a neuron. Nervous tissue contains nerve cells called neurons that conduct impulses, and neuroglia, which are supporting cells that provide nutrients. Neurons are a cell that is able to transmit nerve impulses and consists of three general parts. We have a dendrite, a cell body, and an axon. A dendrite receives signal information from sensory receptors from other neurons. A cell body contains the cell cytoplasm and nucleus, and the axon conducts a nerve signal from the cell body. Here's a picture showing you what a neuron looks like. You can see the nucleus in the cell body. You see dendrites exposing from the cell body, and then a long tail called the axon. Some neurons also contain this myelin fatty substance that covers the tail. This allows the signal to travel faster. Nerves are bundles of axons traveling to and from the brain and spinal cord. Neuroglia. Neuroglia are non-conducting nerve cells that are closely associated with neurons, and their function is mostly supportive. There are several types of neuroglia that support, nourish, and protect the cells. Some examples include the microglia, astrocytes, oligodendrocytes. They outnumber neurons 9-1. Next submodule is epithelial tissue. Learning outcomes are state the role of epithelial cells in the body, distinguish between the different forms of epithelial tissue with regard to location and function. Epithelial tissue is a continuous cellular sheet that covers the body's surface and lines its cavities. Epithelial cells are exposed to the environment on one side, and on the other side, a basement membrane joins epithelium, the underlying connective tissue. In addition to its protective function, It's also modified to carry out functions like secretion, absorption, excretion, and filtration. They're named for the number of cell layers and the shape of the cells. They can be either simple or stratified. Simple means a single layer of cells. Stratified means multiple layers of cells. Over here is a picture showing you the different kinds of shapes and layering. The simple epithelium can have single layer cells, which can be flattened, called squamous. It can also be cube-shaped, called cuboidal, or resembling a rectangular column, called columnar. There's a unique kind called pseudostratified columnar epithelium, named because it appears layered, but each cell actually touches the basement membrane. Simple squamous means a single layer of flattened cells that is found generally in the lungs, where it functions to perform gas exchange. Simple cuboidal cells is a single layer of cube-shaped cells. Here are pictures showing you where you can find them in the body. Simple squamous is your lungs and blood vessel. Simple cuboidal will be your kidneys and various types of glands in the body. Simple columnar epithelium is column-shaped cells, and the pseudostratified columnar epithelium are unique because the nucleus appears to be stratified, but they actually touch the basement membrane. Oftentimes you'll find little hair cells called cilias that allow the mucus to bead across the surface. Over here you can see where you can find them. Simple columnar is found in the small intestine and the uterine tubes of the human body. And pseudostratified columnar are found in the trachea, as well as the ability to move impurities toward the throat. Glands. There are two kinds of glands. We have the exocrine gland and the endocrine gland. Exocrine glands secrete stuff into the ducts, whereas endocrine glands secrete into the bloodstream, and there are no ducts. Stratified epithelia have layers of cells piled on top of the other. The bottom layer touches the basement membrane. Stratified squamous epithelium can be found in the nose, mouth, esophagus, anal canal, outer portion of the cervix, and the vagina. The outer layer of the skin contains stratified squamous epithelium, reinforced by a protein called keratin. Transitional epithelia is unique. Cells that are found in the ability to change shape and tension, namely inside the bladder. Over here is a picture showing you stratified squamous in the nose, mouth, esophagus, anal canal, and vagina.